Oh, you have a stray hair there, you said, smiling, taking it with two of your fingers. Ow! Complained Wally. I don't think that one was a stray one. Oh, sorry, you said as you blushed, before putting the hair in your mouth for safekeeping. After all, you were working on a little Wally hair voodoo doll, and every hair you got from the painter was just one more step to finishing it. You had been dating Wally for about 7 days now, and you felt as if your relationship was progressing way too slowly. You were super devoted to him, and while yes, he appeared devoted to you too, you felt as if it wasn't enough. After all, he still hung out with his friends all the time, and not spending time with you. You felt as if every second the two of you spent separated was a wasted second. That you spent just thinking of him and how to improve your togetherness. Though maybe your obsessive behavior was a little much. After all, he showed no signs of being undevoted. After all, he ate your love cake even after you explained what the love in the cake was. And he also had been nice enough to throw away your toenail clippings, promising from the bottom of his heart he wasn't using them to build a model replica of your house. Though it was a little disappointing. You totally let him build a replica of your house with your toenails. The two of you were right now walking through the neighborhood. It was a pleasant, warm day at the earliest autumn. Most leaves were still green, as a matter of fact. But the wind was cool, and a sign of the upcoming winter. Audrey, look! Wally pointed at a bunch of flowers that grew beneath a tree. Around them was freshly dug dirt, meaning whoever put them there must have just done it. You smiled. Did you do that? He purred, rubbing his cheek on your shoulder. Of course I did. The flowers were super colorful autumn roses. They were widely known in the neighborhood for their painful stings. Wally pulled back the sleeves of his beautiful blue shirt, showing still bloody bandages. See? He said proudly. I just planted them. Autumn roses don't wilt until December with the first snow, so I thought they were just the right thing to plant. They were arranged to look like your face. They're perfect, you said before wrapping your arms around him. But, you whispered into his ear, next time, tell me. I'd do it myself. You don't deserve to feel pain, so just call me. I feel the pain for you. Your name was Audrey Odburn. You were one of the many entertainers of the Circus Totally Colorful, which would arrive in home twice a year for about a week. Or, well, you were. As the Totally Colorful Circus had a suspicious fire that completely destroyed the big main tent and a couple of the wagons, a day after you and Wally became a couple. Lucky for you, this meant that the circus disbanded and you could stay in home. Though at first you didn't have a house, so you just slept secretly inside of Wally's outdoor trash can, which led to a funny little interaction with your boyfriend when he found out. After that, he and the other neighbors all put their wallets together and got you a mobile home in the form of a big van. It even had a toilet. You were a pretty pink puppet with cyan-colored nose and long cotton candy-colored hair. The inside of your mouth was a big, gaping black void, as your purpose in the circus was swallowing all sorts of sharp objects, only to regurgitate them on stage. You were super popular with the male customers. for a totally unknown reason. But mostly, luckily for you, were the circumstances of you being allowed to leave the circus. After all, you had signed a lifelong contract with Dean Dijsselbunch, the owner of the circus. He had survived the initial fire, but somehow, even though the doctor said he was on the road to recovery, one night he just simply passed away. Sure, you may accidentally cause the fire by smoking a cigarette next to Dean's trailer, but you definitely didn't intend anyone to die. He had already signed the okay on disbanding the circus after all, since the tent was gone. Therefore making a contract null and void, so you had no need for him to suddenly fall super ill and be just gone forever. Wally, however, was super happy when you told him about the circus disbanding. The painter had just awkwardly chuckled and said, "Man, you should have told me that earlier. I would have, worried less." Upon asking what he meant, he just said he can act a little impulsive sometimes. And how charming that was. "And this wonderful day isn't over yet," said Wally as you continued your walk. "Oh, really?" "Yeah, I've planned a beautiful dinner date for us inside of home." "Aww," you said. "What's wrong?" he asked curiously. "I planned one too." The two of you looked at each other before chuckling loudly. "Well, which dinner date do we attend then?" he said in a celebratory manner. And you gasped. "How about we put them together?" "You know, that might be the best idea I have ever heard." Wally then crossed his arms. "But we can only have a lovely date in one place." You narrowed your eyes challengingly. And after a very competitive round of heads or tails, with Wally's lucky coin, it had been decided you and Wally would have the date in your house. It took the two of you a while to have the beautiful dinner Wally had prepared. It was a lot of meat, your favorite. Luckily, this went very well with your apple-themed dessert date you had planned yourself at your own home. So now it was a full-on, full-course meal the two of you would enjoy. Though, as Wally was chopping the meat so the two of you had an easier time transporting it to your house, you stole yourself into his bedroom, looking for more hairs for your little voodoo doll. There you opened his dresser, where immediately your eyes fell upon a half-finished sculpture of your house made out of toenail clippings. Your heart fluttered, so he did build it. Carefully you looked through the tiny windows. It was 1-to-1. It even had the precise amount of spoons, forks and knives that you had, and even included the little red tomato stains on them that you got on them whenever you licked over them a little too enthusiastically to taste test your food. Gently you closed Wally's dresser. You'd let him finish it. Maybe someday he'd let you see it for realsies. With a fluttering heart, you rejoined him in the kitchen. An hour later, all the stuff had been organized in your home. Wally was completely enchanted by the gigantic dessert meal you made for him. Apple pudding, apple milk rice, apple cake, apple pie, apple fries. All of these things he considered his favorite food. He hugged you so tightly you couldn't breathe for a full minute. He was always so nice to you. The other day, he had hugged you so tight you had passed out, later waking up in his bed. Ah, that was so romantic. As you put the food on the table, Wally placed cherry cola for you from home, while you place your apple cider for him. Sitting down, the two of you smile at each other. Don't you just hate how it's customary that we are supposed to sit in front of each other? I'd rather have you sit next to me, you complained. And the painter chuckled. Yeah, but... Leaning forward, he smiled. This way, it's easier to get lost in your eyes. Oh, you blushed. You're such a charmer. The first serving of food was delicious. So was the cola he got you. Meanwhile, he seemed to enjoy his apple fries and apple cider too. Funny enough, you actually added a little some to the cider. You wondered when it would kick in. It wasn't until the second meal serving that you yawned, while Wally scratched the back of his head. Man, why am I so tired? Maybe, you stuttered, your brain feeling foggy. Probably because of the love the two of you shared. You're just comfortable. He finished your sentence before both of you passed out, simultaneously. Like always for you, you didn't dream. It was just endless nothingness, darkness. Like you had been swallowed by your own gut. You always wondered why you couldn't dream. Made you a little irritable. Though thanks to Wally, you could suppress it. Those had been the best days of your life after all, ever since you started dating. Suddenly, you felt something. Something soft and warm press against your cheek. Still a little sleep drunk, you rubbed your face against it. Maybe Wally had picked you up and was cradling you right now, because you suddenly fell asleep. Oh, that's so sweet. But that's when you smelled the barbecue sauce. Opening your eyes, you sat back up. You were still at the dinner table. Looking at the puppet in front of you, Wally was also asleep. His face was planted into your pie. You narrowed your eyes and took hold of the leftover cherry cola. With a finger you swirled it around, only to notice small white particles. You drugged me, you said. Wally shook, slowly sitting up. He looked at you, tilting his head, smiling. I mean, to be fair, the fact that I passed out too can only mean that you tried to drug me as well. You blushed hard and pouted. I just wanted to kidnap you and keep you in my basement for a while. I would have let you go eventually. Wally laughed loudly. That's so funny. I was about to do the same thing, actually. Your pow turned into a smile. That's so kind of you. You tilted your head lovingly. You were so dreamy. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? He said after the two of you just lovingly stared into each other's eyes for 30 minutes. Don't tell me you're thinking of killing Barnaby and Eddie too, so we spend more time together. He blinked. Holy moly! I was thinking of doing the same thing, but, with Poppy and Julie. Because you were spending time with them guests yesterday, and I found that really upsetting. I think about it all the time, you said proudly. I always dream about it, hushed Wally seductively. Ah! Happily you clapped your hands. But no, not what I was thinking of. I was thinking of making out on this table, he said happily. Oh, let's totally do that, you shouted. Overexcited, the two of you pushed the rest of the food down the table as you crawled towards each other on top of it, his hands digging into your back, while yours took hold of his hip and thigh. Ravenously, Wally pressed his mouth onto yours as you squeezed him tightly. The painter was a really good and greedy kisser, his tongue almost immediately vanishing past your lips. He was such a wild animal, only outshined by your aggressive rubs, tugs, and grabs. Normally, Wally hated to be touched by anyone else, but when you did it, his heart would pump twice, no, 3 times as fast, but not in a painful way. Well, technically in a painful way, but in a painfully good way. His impatient hands moved from your back down to the bow tie that held your dress together. Already he was pulling at it like a toddler, unable to control itself, but that was okay. You leaned further into his chest to allow him more access, while you nipped at his neck. He sighed lovingly at the mild pain he got when your teeth scraped against his skin. Finally unraveling your clothes, now it was his turn. He leaned back, looking at you expectantly, allowing your twitching fingers to unbutton his shirt. You are nothing under it, you naughty boy, you said while giggling. Well, it felt as if the night would end like this, even if you would have ended up in my basement. And I have the strange feeling, your basement as well. Of course, sweetie, you purred. It's just you're being efficient, and I really like that. Thank you to the people who are supporting me on Ko-fi. You guys are keeping me alive.